Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Sunday, the 1st of June, 2025. Thank you for tuning in. We got a lot to talk about. Russia is launching 500 drones. This just keeps going on and on and on. Russia's launched many drones in, and then the next day, Ukraine will fire back deep into Russian territory or whatever. It all sounds so familiar. It just keeps on going. You know, this war has an awful lot of potential to spread, further than the boundaries of just Russia and Ukraine. But we're also at the point where they're talking about peace talks and stuff. So we don't know how this thing's going to land right now at this point. Now, hurricane season's coming around, guys. In fact, it's starting. And National Hurricane Center, he's talking about what you should do to prepare for hurricane season. And it just started today. Today, I guess, was the first day of hurricane season. It says nobody could have foreseen how traumatic Hurricane Helene would be for so many people in so many states. But it underscores precisely why National Hurricane Center Director Michael Brennan stresses individual preparation for hurricane season, which begins on June 1st. And once you get individually prepared, so you can kind of count this as kind of an extra along with your regular preps that you make. Have extra stuff for hurricane. If you're in any path, I'm in a hurricane path right here. I get hurricanes. Could get really bad ones here. They come right up the eastern seaboard and slam right into Nova Scotia, which sticks out into the water, kind of like Florida does, Florida's another bad state. All those states that border on the Gulf of America / Gulf of Mexico. I don't really know what you're supposed to call it now. I'll call it the Gulf of America. All those states that border on that, all the way down to Texas, all the East Coast states, from Florida all the way up to Maine, all those states. So it's a lot of states involved here, and hurricanes can go inland quite a little ways, such as the Carolinas found out last season. So I keep an eye on these hurricanes, and if we get a really bad one on here, I'm going to come on here and I'm going to give you guys my forecast, which generally coordinates with the National Hurricane Center. There's not often that I see something in a hurricane that they don't see. They're very good at forecasting hurricanes at the National Hurricane Center. Now, I saw this so-called slap, on board the airplane with Emmanuel Macron and his wife, And I watched it, and I was like, why are they making a big to-do about that? That wasn't, in my mind, that wasn't even I watched it happen in real time. I'd seen the video footage. And that wasn't a real slap. That was a little push to the face. It wasn't even a hit. You couldn't define it as a hit or a slap. It was too slow and too deliberate. And it wasn't a hard push either. It was like a little push to the face. It wasn't. I don't know why they're making a big deal about that. It was almost nothing. you know? Uh, uh, I mean, they're talking about marriage advice and all this kind of stuff. It says giving them. That was nothing. Haven't you ever seen a little push to the face before? Wives do that all the time. They reach over and give a little push to the face, kind of like mind your P's and Q's sort of thing. It's no big deal. They're going to make a big deal about it, I guess so. It says Candy Maker is removed the additional additive that was targeted by RFK Jr. from Skittles. I think it's that red dye, which is extremely poisonous stuff. They've been putting poisonous stuff in our food for years. Finally, they're starting to take some of it out. What they should go after next is these GMO foods and stuff. The ones that are got built-in pesticides built right into the food as it grows, to keep the insects away. But then they can't remove that once they make it into something, like say it's in wheat or something like that, or corn or something, and once they process it, that chemical that the plant produces would still be in there, I would think, if the plant is designed by man to produce something that it normally doesn't produce. They should go after that. They shouldn't leave that in. Now, Trump is talking about increasing. There is a problem with the United States power grid. It's barely hanging on, especially in peak periods where you get a heat wave. Everybody turns on their air conditioners. The power grid is just barely supporting this at this point right now. Now they're talking about putting on 400 gigawatts of nuclear power in by 2050. They're going to build 10 large reactors that are going to be in construction by 2030. And so, a nuclear power plant, they produce a tremendous amount of power. I forget what it was. I looked this up years ago, and I found out that one nuclear power plant can produce power like 10 of these coal-fired plants or something. It's amazing how much power they produce. They do produce a lot of power, a nuclear power plant. Now, I don't agree with them because I don't trust them. There's a fire burning on inside that thing that you can't put it out. You just can't walk away from the thing and say, okay, let's switch it off and walk away. You got to keep cooling it and cooling it and cooling it for like forever, with water pumps and stuff. And if those methods of cooling were to somehow break from whatever, I don't know, maybe you have a hurricane in the area and it floods the area and water spills into your generator system that operates the cooling system. And this is what happened in Japan. You ever heard of a place called Fukushima? That's what happened. And then they had a meltdown. But you can't turn the things off. That's the whole problem. And it's fine as long as you can keep your backup generators and stuff up and running and you can keep the cooling systems running. Now, this is the problem they had with the reactor in Ukraine. It was in the war zone, one of the biggest reactors in Europe. So that's a little bit of a negative for this. But the positive, and why they want to build them so bad, is the amount of electricity they produce. Tremendous amount of electricity comes from the nuclear plant. Now, what did silver do this week? It's sitting at 32.96. It's been hovering around this range lately for a while now. It's just it's really holding this position in around $32, $33. Been holding it for quite a while. And gold's not really moving up real quickly anymore. It's kind of settled in around, what is it, 3,200 or something? Well, we'll look in a minute when we get to that page. So silver's at 32.96. Cryptocurrency today, 105,000 for Bitcoin. That's huge. That's big. $105,000 for Bitcoin. I'm going to tell you what. Just imagine in your mind if, say, a year from now or 8 months from now, some group of hackers or something got a hold of the latest quantum computer chips and say they did it. They did the impossible. Say they cracked the private keys open on some big wallet someplace. Some rich guy went to check his wallet and he's got 5,000 Bitcoins in there. And he goes to check his wallet and he finds out it's cleaned right out. And the news comes out. All the news medias would pick up on it out there. What do you think would happen to the price of Bitcoin the next day? If you can't trust it. Because everybody who has wallets and HODLing would think the same thing. Are they going to break into mine next? And they would think, well, what can I get for these suckers? Oh, they're still going for 75,000 or whatever the next day, and the price is dropping like a stone. Everybody and their dog would be rushing in to get rid of them. I mean, it would just be a free fall in price. It wouldn't be a crash. It would be Because Bitcoin is all reliant upon the algorithm working, functioning. And if quantum computer takes that algorithm out in any way or fashion, it's just going to kill it. It'll kill it. Because the total reliance on this for value is all on it functioning as a means of solving the Byzantine generals problem. You know, the being able to actually, and it's done that pretty well since 2009 till now. So people they can't ever see in their mind that it would ever have any problem in the future, because that's a long time from 2009 until now. Not so much as a glitch, but by gosh, now that quantum computers coming along, I think there could be a huge glitch coming. And you guys been warned. Let's just put it that way. You've been warned. And that's my big worry. Why I'm warning you is quantum computing could somehow compromise the function of Bitcoin. And being as that's its sole value relies upon its function, well, what would happen next would be maybe totally unimaginable until after it happens. You know? Okay, Yahoo Finance. Let's take a look at what the markets did this week. The Dow Jones finished at 42,270. The Russell was at 2066. The S&P 500 was down marginally at 5911, and the Nasdaq was 19,113, down 62 points. Gold, there you go, 33.13 is where it ended the week, down $30. Okay, taking a look at our bonds and our rates for this week. We're looking at only the very long end of the yield curve. The 30-year went up just a tiny little fraction, but most of the middle, from the middle to the long end, all the 10-year finished at 4.39. It was down 2.6 basis points. Finishing up with our dollar was at 99.44 on the week, and the dollar's kind of going along sideways. Well, thank you for listening to your weekend show. You guys have a great week. I'm working on some projects. I got this intense. Over the past couple months, I've been doing a lot of research and intense studying and working on things that are absolutely amazing. But I got a lot of work yet to do. And it's been taking a lot of my time, this work. And it's turning into a nice summer. It's nice and sunny out today. So far, it hasn't been overly hot. Let's hope the heat doesn't come in anytime real soon. We'll catch you guys in the next show. You guys have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.